I just want to get started with what we're
Yeah.
here to talk about. A very important area, wounds, right? That a lot of us are carrying. And I love this particular workshop because it kind of takes everything together and we make sure we clean it, all up because it's
Mm,
like every single emotion that, you maybe have gone through. And most of us don't realize we're acting from old emotional patterns, right? Not from who we are today.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think, and I'm sure that you will also resonate with that idea of, we all want to live in the present and be able to be who we are today. Um,
Mhm.
so, can you tell us a little bit more about this workshop that you're running?
Sure. Thank you so much for organizing the meetup tonight. I find it wonderful that we can introduce a little bit the concept because there are many wounds. We are just wounded beings, and many of us, we are working the whole life on it. And of course, we improve and we get better, and our life improves. And what I love about this particular concept is that we are working on 5 core emotional wounds, and not just wounds, but masks.
Mm,
So very often we work on childhood trauma, and this is where most of the wounds, were created. And specifically here, we are looking at the pain, we are looking at the wound, but we also spend time to discover the masks. And that's something that, in my opinion, is just even more interesting.
yeah.
It makes more sense.
So when you say
And
mask, it's what because of this wound, what have they sort of put
yes,
that
yes,
mask on? Right.
exactly. Yeah. So, it's many people actually think there is something wrong with them,
Mm,
right? I mean, how many of us felt in the past or even now sometimes we feel that there is something wrong with me? This question, what's wrong with me? Or what's wrong with you? Why are you acting this way? And of course, there is nothing wrong with us. It's just that we have those emotional imprints within us.
yeah.
Either, and that's very interesting aspect, either due to our own experience in this lifetime, mostly in the childhood, obviously, because as children, we just take it all in. Literally, we are like sponges, so we take it all in. Or, and this is very interesting additional part, it is already an imprint that exists in our lineage,
Mm,
either mother lineage or father lineage or both. And this is when it becomes very interesting, and that's where family constellation comes in. And we start looking at the wounds not just from a personal perspective, meaning my childhood, but also from a systemic perspective. I truly believe, and you know that, Maisha, because you are in a course, you went through foundation course. I really believe that if there wouldn't be anything, any specific systemic trauma or pain or suffering in the past, in our parents' lineages, we would not have childhood trauma. I
mm,
really believe that.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm afraid all of us, we have something. And many of the things, of course, we already resolved. So this wound can be systemic and it can be personal.
Right.
And when we really become aware, what's there? Either what happened, this is the best when we know what happened, of course. But if we don't know what happened, then we start looking at our behavior. We start looking at how do we show up to the world.
Mm,
And very often that's a mask.
right.
This is often the mask. And guess what? Sometimes we are not even aware of it.
Mm,
Sometimes it's so unconscious. It's so ingrained in us. Um, I'm sure we all know people, and sometimes we act this way that we don't truly express how we feel. We don't say what we think. And then people say, oh, you are not authentic. You are fake. You put a mask on. And in this work, it's not about that we are fake. It's about looking at the mask from the compassionate perspective, from this perspective of if I behave this way and it's not helpful, it, it, it doesn't bring me peace, then let's look beneath the mask. Why am I doing that?
Mm.
What's really the reason of it? And this is when we very often go into the past, and we realize that there is a wound.
Yeah.
And the moment we realize that there is a wound, this is when we can start healing.
Yeah.
Because awareness, what's there, is the first step to healing.
Yeah. And I find it very interesting how, some people may resonate with all of these wounds, and some will say, oh, I can kind of resonate with this or this, right? But at the end of the day, we may be walking around with masks. We don't realize that we're not able to identify that that's actually what we're hiding, or that's the excuse me, is my voice. Yeah, that's actually the mask that you're putting on, and through that you can figure out what wound is are you actually hiding.
Hmm. Yeah,
I find that
absolutely.
very, very interesting.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
Go
Hmm.
ahead.
No, no, no. Just
So I was
proceed
I
what
was
you want.
curious, you know, in discovering these wounds, right? Does it necessarily have to be a big trauma? Can it be something very simple or small that kind of is discovered? What have you experienced in terms of wounds and mask?
Hmm. Both. So very often there is trauma that happened, but the question is, what is trauma?
Mm,
Trauma doesn't have to be what many of us know as the big T trauma, like abuse or very traumatic experience, for example, a natural catastrophe. It doesn't have to be like this. When we look at trauma as that disconnection within ourselves, and it is actually a bodily sensation too, then it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a neglect during childhood. It can be a situation when our mother or our father was absent emotionally.
mm,
And many people wouldn't consider that a trauma, but over a period of time, it teaches us as children that it is not safe to connect,
yeah.
or we need to do something in order for our mother or father to see us. So it's not necessary that it has to be traumatic experience. More often than not, it was. But again, when we remember that the wound is not only happening in childhood, but also in our system, our family system, well, we know that our parents or grandparents or great grandparents went through a lot of trauma
Yeah.
during their lifetimes. So the wound, this generational wound,
Mm.
we may carry. We may carry. And that's what we will find out as well during that course.
So we
We
can
will
have
work on,
good
mhm,
childhoods and still be carrying wounds,
yeah, yeah,
right? And
yes,
that's possible,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. And because I've done that course, I just finished a few weeks ago. I mean, really, the students were amazed. They didn't expect certain.
Apology.
Um, I didn't hear anything. um, students were really amazed because they didn't expect certain wounds to come up or to have certain wounds. And yet, based on the behavior that they are presenting in the world, based on the mask they are wearing, and we we really get to know ourselves in that class. So we start recognizing the behaviors that we are showing to the world. Again, many of it very, very unconsciously. They suddenly were like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I have this wound. I was not aware that I had a wound of humiliation, for example, because it's not, it's not a very clear wound, maybe. So there was a lot of insights and healing. And again, when we are aware what's happening within us, then we can do something about it. When we are not aware, we can't. We really can't. And we need to understand, all of us, whether we do this work or not, that children, so that means us, many years ago, for me, few years ago for you guys, for some of you, you're very young, we adapt to situations before we understand.
Mm.
So, I have some clients coming to me and say, oh, I understand. My parents, they did the best that they could. So I understand everything. And I say, yeah, me too. I also understand a lot. But the little Monica and the little you did not understand because as a child, you just take in everything and then you develop strategies, you develop coping mechanism that helps you to survive, that helps you to receive what you need, the love, the appreciation. And this is what we call masks. And the problem is, back then, when we were little, when we were young, those masks really helped us to survive, to function. Nowadays, when we are adults, those masks very often limit us.
Yeah.
Why? Because we are not ourselves.
Mm.
And as many trauma professionals say, in trauma and in stress as well, there is always this conflict that a child has. Do I adapt in order to belong, in order to stay attached to my family, or do I become authentic and
Mm.
do what I want? And children, in most cases, they choose to adapt. It's unconscious process. It's not even conscious. Now we are adults, and what happens? Very often we still choose to adapt. We still choose to belong. And the problem is that sometimes we actually, in order to belong, we are forgetting ourselves.
Mm.
So we are not authentic. We are not ourselves. This was what you stated in the beginning, right? And on the outside, it looks good,
Mhm.
and everybody may like us, and everybody may appreciate us, but within us, we might be dying. Why? Because we are actually going against our soul.
Mm.
We do a lot of things that we actually have an internal no to instead of a yes, and we still do it. And that's exactly the power of the wound and the mask. Yeah. So that's how it happens. That's how it runs.
Such a brilliant explanation. I think, you've really like put it together very well. I want to give a little bit of maybe examples of a mask could be somebody who's overly independent or, perfectionist could be a mask,
Hmm.
right? Or somebody who's very controlling is somebody who
Yes.
tries to control a situation, could be wearing a mask.
Hmm.
Um, or even withdrawn emotionally, right? Could be
Absolutely. Yeah.
masks. It's
Hmm.
as simple as those type of habits or things that we
Behaviors. Yeah.
behaviors that have become who we are today. right?
Yeah.
And I love
Yeah.
how you said that we start to realize later on in life, as a kid we just adapted, we just did it, right? Because we
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
our parents' love, we wanted the attention, and this is how we thought it happened. And a lot of my clients, once, for instance, let's say their parents pass away, then that's when they lose the motivation, or they lose that momentum, because a lot of the times what has been driving them were these masks, right? And these are situations where that awareness, I mean, they wouldn't be aware, but they're like, there's something wrong here. Why am I not motivated anymore? Or why am
Mhm.
I not wanting to do things? So,
Mhm.
is it everybody will kind of figure it out that, what, this conflicts and this is not who I am? Or do we get to that point, do you feel? Or are a lot of people still adapting even later on in life, do you think?
Well, look at the world.
Mm,
I think people adapt a lot still, really a lot. Um, how many happy, contented people do we have in the world?
mm,
I always see what we see in the world is a reflection what is within us.
yeah.
And what we see a lot are conflicts right now.
Mm,
That's what we see. The conflicts, the control, the manipulation. I mean, it's been there, for ages. But instead of we are, I thought we are evolving. I really doubted sometimes. Of course, we are evolving, but we didn't reach that critical mass yet that we actually know ourselves, that we actually are true to ourselves, especially the true essence, that we know who we are. We sometimes think that who we are is what we are showing to the world. And many people don't want to talk about it. Many people go for therapy to talk about it,
mm,
not in the group,
yeah.
because it could be that somebody might judge them.
Mm,
And that's also wound and masks. So I do believe, because I see what's happening as well, many more people are awakening not to the spirituality itself, that it's, all about energy and it's all about manifestations and everything. No, they are actually awakening to this, yeah, realization that we have everything within us, but as long as it's covered up, so our authentic self is covered up, it's really difficult to live a wonderful life. And I have a feeling that this particular class helps a lot in becoming aware of what's happening within us. What did we do to cover it up in order to survive? You said it so beautifully, Maisha, that many people adapt it and, they feel lost when the parents die. We all had to adapt because it was pure survival.
mhm,
It was truly survival, especially in the beginning. And the problem is we learned how to behave and we still do it. So I have a feeling that the inner work that we are doing, whether, it's your work, my work, other people's therapies, it always moves forward. It brings us forward in our evolution to get to know ourselves better. And when we can see ourselves through compassionate eyes, and, I say it in the real light. And the real light sometimes is to admit, oops, there are certain things about me that are not so positive. And I just had to do it because I needed to survive. We can slowly start changing, going back to our essence. So, to me, the goal of all the therapies is actually really to become more authentic, more ourselves, and that's why we have to start with ourselves.
yeah.
We can't start somewhere else, and then I believe the world will change. Yeah.
Beautiful. So one of the many, um, different behaviors or wounds that we explore, the first one is the wound of rejection, right?
Mhm,
So we have, for those of you who don't know, we have rejection, betrayal, abandonment, injustice, humiliation. These are what we're going to explore in the 5 weeks. So
mhm.
one of them is rejection. Now, how does the wound of rejection usually show up in an adult life, let's say?
In an adult life, so again, there is a wound, and of course, there is a mask, right? And how we show up in adult life is very often through the mask.
Hmm.
So we cover the wound perfectly so that we don't see it, and everybody can not, people cannot see it. So we put a mask. So the wound of rejection is basically that we feel, or it started that we felt in the past unwanted,
Hmm.
unwanted, unseen, unheard. Respectively, when we do something or when we did something, we were rejected.
Hmm.
So when we feel nowadays as adult person that we may not be welcomed, what do? We withdraw.
Yeah.
Now, even if we don't know whether we will be welcomed or not, we may withdraw before.
Hmm.
Why? So that we don't experience that rejection again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the best example, and this comes, of course, from systemic constellations, is interrupted reaching out movement. As a baby, every single baby is trying to reach the mother. When the mother is not there, physically or emotionally, a child perceives it as a rejection. So after a while, the child learns when I'm reaching for my mother, I get rejected because nobody is there. So I better hide. I better withdraw. So if some of you, you have a feeling that you are hiding, that you are afraid or that you don't want to be seen or heard, and it can be even as therapists, as practitioners, that you don't put yourself out there because you are afraid of this rejection or judgment, this could be the wound of rejection that you are carrying.
Hmm.
And again, this wound can be also systemic, of course.
Yeah. So, if, for example, it could even show up as somebody doubting themselves, right? Or not
Yeah,
confident in their
yeah,
abilities,
yeah, yeah.
um, or difficulty in, like your example of the mother, then after that, they might not want to receive love anymore because they're trying to get love from their parents and they didn't get it. So it can really manifest and show up in so many different
Many ways.
ways. So,
Yeah. And
we,
yeah,
yeah,
in
go
the
ahead.
class, we will talk about all the ways that is possible, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And we have a question. Can procrastination also be a mask?
I would say it can belong to a mask. Yes. The behavior of procrastination, yes. The question would be, what is the reason that somebody procrastinates?
Yeah.
What is the reason? Yeah. Very often there is some kind of fear. So, what would be the fear that the person procrastinates? Yeah, absolutely.
So the next area is abandonment. Now, when you give that example of the baby and the rejection, so sometimes I could kind of see how they overlap, right? It could feel like that is also an abandonment wound that could show up. Is that kind of how, when we go through these different weeks, we might feel that some are similar or overlapping? How does that work?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And especially rejection and abandonment very often go hand in hand, very often. So people who have rejection wound very often will feel that they also have abandonment wound. And I still remember one person in the previous course, a person who you know very well, asked me, Monica, I have a feeling the abandonment came first before rejection, because we usually say rejection comes first. This
Mm,
is based on really lots of research, and it can be as well.
mm,
But we distinguish. You see, rejection can be just a feeling, right? I feel rejected. You may just walk away right now, and I may feel rejected by you. And
yeah.
it doesn't mean that you really do it to me. And abandonment is truly a physical situation where mother or father left the child or forgot the child somewhere.
Mm. And that
But you are
I've
told,
had many sessions that way where a mother forgets to pick their child up from school. And as
I know,
adults, they're coming
same
in
with my
and
daughter.
this is
Yeah, it happened to me too. My husband actually forgot to pick up my daughter, luckily from the friends. So it wasn't the school or somewhere else. So this was, she was in a safe place. Yeah, absolutely. So
mm,
can you imagine how the child can feel,
yeah.
right? Because it was really a physical act.
Mm,
With rejection is more the feeling. With abandonment is really the physical act. But yes, there is no rule. So what I want to say is it's always everybody's very unique. So whatever you feel for yourself is right.
yeah.
Whatever we feel always makes sense. And yes, rejection and abandonment go hand in hand. And very often, what do we do when we carry a deep wound of abandonment? Very often, we become very dependent,
Mm,
very, very dependent. So we're like so emotionally attached. We are just afraid. We are so afraid of being left alone. So this is how we can see, for example, in partner relationships, right? In romantic relationships, there is this huge codependency
yeah.
going on. We are so afraid. We are checking on the partner all the time. We are jealous. We may feel jealous. It's really the deep-seated fear of being left alone. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, I was just thinking of a word now people are using. I don't know, it's called Velcro. They're like a Velcro. Like you cannot
Cannot. Okay.
it's like Velcro.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
came to mind when you were
Yeah.
describing that.
And it is the fear, really the fear of separation.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we have a question. What is the class format? Is it more on discussions, or will we learn the skill on how to heal the wounds? Will there be swaps? Is this a class open to non-theta healers?
Absolutely. Most of the people who joined last class were non-Theta healers. Some of them, they were or they are family constellation practitioners, and some of them just people who are very, very interested in inner work. So yes, it is for everyone, as long as you are able to regulate yourself, regulate your nervous system, meaning not going into any panic when you suddenly may remember a situation that happened in the childhood. So people who are on heavy medication, psychiatric medication, I would not necessarily recommend that, because it's better to work on emotional stuff with a therapist or someone who you work with. But we didn't have any issues, because theta healers as well, like all the other people who are here today, you know how to regulate yourself. I'm talking about nervous system, and we also do in the beginning few exercises. We will be doing grounding so that really you are safe. And of course, I'm there. There will not be breakout rooms. So I'm not going into breakout rooms in this particular class, exactly for that reason, that I want to see you. I want to be available for questions and feedback and everything. What do? We always start with grounding. I will talk a little bit about the theory because there is a pretty, chunk of theory. When did the wound create themselves? What may have happened? And then we do exercises. So we do processes, systemic processes, meaning family constellation exercises, and also personal exercises through meditation, through visualization. We will do mini constellations. If you don't know what it is, we will be using objects to set up constellations and we will be working on it very slow. So it will be very slow pace so that you have time to process emotions, to write them down. And there will be also a growth work. I don't like to call it homework because it reminds us of the school, but there will be some growth work for you, just that you become more aware of what's happening between the wounds. So what's happening in your life? Do you recognize your behavior? What could it mean? And then you work on it. And how do we work on it? Actually, it's really simple. It's very, very simple. It's by looking at it compassionately, by acknowledging it, by soothing ourselves, and slowly, slowly, if we choose to, by changing the behavior. But again, there is no force, there is no push. I see actually some people here who joined that course, and so they can also write something if they want to. And that's the format. That's the format.
Beautiful. So I'm just going to continue with there was one more question to that question
Mhm.
is, can we use these tools or healings to our clients after we finish the class?
Yes, you can if you feel comfortable with that, of course.
Awesome. The next batch of the next segment is humiliation. So I want to go back to
Mhm.
what we're going to explore. And humiliation, is it similar? Is it same as shame, or where does that kind of overlap in terms of words?
Yeah, so basically, humiliation is when there is a lot of shame.
Hmm.
And the shame is that it's really the lowest of the lowest emotions that we can have. According to Dr. Hawkins, I think. And it runs very, very deep, especially in women. I
Hmm.
think, really, especially in women. And yes, absolutely. So in whatever way we perceived ourselves as there is, I am totally wrong.
Hmm.
And this is really, in my opinion, this is also one of the deepest wounds because it makes us absolutely not good and not fit for this world. So I found this wound to be very deep running, even in me. So this is my main wound. I was sharing this the other day with the class, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought, it was rejection, but no, it's actually humiliation. And humiliation really prevents us from living joyful life, really prevents us from that. Because whatever we do, if it's deep wound, yeah, whatever we do, we have a feeling we are wrong. It's not what I do is wrong, is I am wrong. And this is really very deep. So yes, I would say it's equal to shame.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And how do we deal with it when there is something wrong with us and we are wrong? We sacrifice ourselves. We
Mhm.
self-sacrifice. We please people. we are not so important, unfortunately, as a mask. Yeah. So it's like everybody is more important than us. And that's very painful. I find it very, very painful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, shame could be somebody made you feel ashamed, or you feel you did something shameful as well. So it could be both aspects of things.
So generally, as children, we are perfect beings. We think there is nothing shameful about us. Have you ever seen a baby who looked at themselves and started criticizing themselves and was ashamed? I've never seen. They are just right. The babies, they are just perfect. So now when we think back, we can judge ourselves and feel it was shameful. But the origin is always people judged us and basically gave us the feeling that we are wrong.
Hmm.
So it always comes from outside. Yeah,
Right. Very
always. Imagine a young person who got pregnant, 15 years old,
interesting.
16 years old, and goes home and the first thing the parents say to her, how dare you even had sex?
Hmm.
And then they really project a lot of shame on her. So it always comes from outside as the wound, as the wound. Yeah.
I had a client who had this particular situation where she was a baby out of, her mom was very young when she got pregnant. And now this woman is coming to me because she's having a difficult time getting pregnant, and
Mm-hmm.
that's because she was carrying her mother's shame, which is why
Mm.
she's stopping herself from getting pregnant because it's shameful to get pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's very
Yeah.
you see this around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see that a lot. And generally, this is not even very often, it's not even the first time
Mm,
that the shame came up. Because, I remember when I got pregnant with my first daughter, well, she wasn't planned. She was a surprise because we are not calling it an accident. And I was in the school. I was in Switzerland, me, Eastern European person getting pregnant during internship. So yeah, I think you can all imagine how I felt. So there was a lot of shame around it.
mm,
Yeah. But very often this is not the first experience because it's already late.
right.
Even if it would be teenage time, it's already late. Very often these experiences happen very early. I mean, we all know about children, small children. They love to play with their private parts.
Mm, mm,
Normal. Suddenly there is something they didn't see before because they couldn't see down, right?
yeah.
And suddenly they start playing. And most parents, what do? Shame on you. This is not what we do. Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself. They pee in the bed. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Mm,
So these kind of things, unfortunately, I have a beautiful dog coming to me here, is really often also the cause of these kind of
mm,
things.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I
So
can.
very, very powerful wound,
Yeah. These
and
all of them seem very, very powerful.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. So just maybe on this, in this moment, I say we all have some wounds. So I have never met a person, including monks, who don't have a wound. I really didn't. Um, Generally, we have one main wound. Generally, okay, but there are also exceptions. And often we find ourselves with few of them, not necessarily very deep. One, the core wound, the deepest, and we see the behavior very clearly in our lives. And some of them may be just a little bit smaller, but we all have it. And that's the reason I find the work that we do when we do it every week, and there will be recording that you can go back to to watch it again, to do the work again. It's very powerful. I think somebody asked if this is like lifelong work, like inner child. Well, I don't know what to say. I think inner work is lifelong work, but in a way, the more we know and the more we are aware, it doesn't mean we have to go deep and, take everything apart. We just need to start becoming more compassionate with ourselves. So when we learn how to love ourselves deeply with these wounds, with these masks, this is what we will be projecting to the outside world. So what happens is that we will be healing like this as well, without necessarily going through that pain and suffering again.
Right. And we're in a safe space with you who knows, so which is
Hope so.
most most important. Then the other wounds are betrayal, injustice are the last
Mhm.
two, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
betrayal, I feel, is something that people can resonate with very
yeah,
well, right? You've
yeah,
had a friend betray you, or parents, or it's quite prominent. How about injustice? Right? I find
yeah.
that quite interesting to explore.
Mhm. Yeah, it is interesting wound, and sometimes it's really difficult to realize that we have that injustice wound if we don't have a very strong sense of justice. So
Mm,
I personally have, I think I say unfortunately, extremely strong sense of justice. Extreme. So that's not funny anymore. So I know I have that wound as well. But this can go back to really also being made wrong.
mm,
So whatever I do, I bring a nice painting from the school. I show my mom, and she says, "Oh, why is the sun blue? Don't you know that the sun is yellow or orange?" And just such a little thing
yeah.
can make me feel I'm wrong.
Mm,
So the injustice is a little bit almost like the opposite of humiliation.
mm,
Here we had a feeling we are wrong, and in injustice we may feel I did something wrong.
right.
And yeah, so maybe when we say it this way, it's easier to understand. So when we were made feel that we did something wrong, yes, of course, we can also feel ashamed about it, but it doesn't always go so far to shame. But then we start believing, oh, I can't do it. So what do I develop as a mask? I become rigid. I become almost perfect. I become a perfectionist, extremely well organized and structured because I cannot make a mistake again. So this is what happens as the mask. And I was last time when I did this course, what came to my mind, whole nations are actually wearing a huge mask of rigidity. We call this mask rigidity mask. And these are nations actually of perpetrators, a lot. Perpetrators who mostly did something wrong, literally did something wrong during the war times. And
Mm,
we see it, especially in Europe, we see a lot of nations like this. So, yeah, so this is the injustice wound.
beautiful. So I think we've kind of touched on a little bit of everything, and there's a lot of people who are now saying they want to register because it does sound very, very interesting. And what is possible when we start healing these wounds, and we talked about it earlier, is being more authentic, knowing who you really are, and deciding for yourself if you do want to remove these masks and feeling very comfortable in your own
Yeah,
skin.
yeah,
And the more that we work and do the inner work, it can also shift the dynamics around us.
mm, yeah. Exactly. And to just imagine, being more yourself and more confident, more believing in yourself, more loving yourself. And then you go out. First of all, you bring it to your family, whether, your parents, siblings, or a family that you have, your spouse, your children, friends. And then if you are a practitioner of any modality, this will absolutely help you to understand your clients better. And I know here I have some of our constellation facilitators, and I had feedbacks from Vino and other people as well, that suddenly when they joined the course, they started having clients exactly with those
Similar.
wounds.
Yeah,
Of course, because then we can actually recognize that. And when we are working on ourselves, then we can help them. So imagine we are all contributing to the world becoming a better place for all of us.
beautiful.
Yeah,
So I have
that's
one
what it
last
is.
question
Mhm.
before I open it to anybody else is, I mean, these wounds are, can be a little bit scary, or,
Yeah.
for someone who may be afraid to look at these parts of themselves, what would you say to them? Or what are your thoughts, and what would you like to say to them?
So generally, I really do my best to create a safe space, or I call it brave space, so
Mm,
that you guys feel brave as well to look at yourself. You don't have to share anything if you don't want to. Um, if you are a little bit scared, I'm here. I really, those who know me, I'm here to take you by the hand and guide you. Why I love to do it in a group is because a group also represents the mother. So on one hand, it can be scary, but on another hand, we are all in the same boat and we are witnessing ourselves. And I'm not saying that you have to share and we witness you. I'm saying just being in a group of people, just being in a group on the WhatsApp, right? In the WhatsApp group, there is this energetical witnessing. There is this energetical energy of a mother who holds space for you. So I'm not the mother. What I'm saying is just energy of really ideal, loving, compassionate mother. And this is you. You bring it to the table. And I would say, try it out. If you don't like to be in the group, watch recording. You still have the access to me. You can always ask questions. We can have a chat. And if really somebody feels like, no, I don't want to do it in the group, well, there is an opportunity to always do it privately with me, right? It's just that in the group, I find it that traveling in the group is just more powerful. Again, because of the witnessing effect, of that of that observer effect. That's it. Yeah.
thank you so
And
much.
again, if somebody is scared, just message Maisha. She knows me. She knows I don't bite. And of a screen would be anywhere difficult.
Definitely
Or you
far
can,
from that.
and definitely you can also message me. So, yeah, we can have a chat and we can see if this is something that is, it's good for you. Or if you would like to do it, to join.
Wonderful. So thank you so much, Monica. This has been very informative, and I'm very excited myself to take the class for the first
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are starting on the 1st of June, and it's for 5 subsequent Mondays at 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. GMT plus 8. Um,
Mhm.
I have put it in the chat box. There is a link for the registration, and there is our number in case anybody needs to connect with us to book
Mhm.
your slot. Um, and I look forward to seeing you guys there.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. Thank you so much, Maisha, for organizing again this talk, this chat, this interview. As usual, it's fun to talk to you. and explore together. And I definitely look forward to this class again. Those who know me and joined some classes for the second and third time, they know that we always do other things as well. So yeah, it will be, I'm sure it will be beautiful. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, and good night. And see you in
And
1 week time, some of you.
and if you have any other questions, feel free to connect with me. I will revert back to Monica or answer as best as I can. See you guys next Monday. Wow, it's a week from
Thank
now.
you. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a week. Bye, everyone.
Guys, oops, I was gonna say let's take a picture, but I think we lost. So it's okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
All right. See you guys.
Okay, bye bye.